Am I back? I'm back. Okay. Oh. I'm waiting for... I've got a bunch of... all the apps are coming back up, but Power Toys is gone and will not come back. I am dead in the water on this, and I'm not going to screw with the registry anymore. Yeah, I can't even... Gosh, my stream decks are still coming up. But... Yep. Well, that's promising. So, yeah, Power Toys prompted me for an update. Went to do the update. It crashed in the middle of the update to 096.1. And went to run the update again. Wouldn't update. Said still has versions here you need to uninstall. I went and uninstalled. It removed them. Still won't let me install a new version. Says there's still Power Toys on disk. So I'm dead in the water, and I'm going to try the WinGet install. I can't download it from GitHub because this machine isn't... I'm a Microsoft employee, and this machine isn't enrolled. So... it's downloading the package, and well, we might have gotten in. So, like, I was just going through and deleting all of the keys, all of the registry keys that said Power Toys anywhere on them. Oh. So, I'm not hopeful that this is going to install properly. I'd like it to be, but oh, maybe we got it. Let me get Charlie restarted here. All right, .NET Watch. Yeah, all my settings are gone, and yeah. I have no idea what these things are. Thumbnail shortcut, advanced paste window. I don't know what they are. Goodbye. Go away. But fancy zones, does it remember my fancy zones? Or did we lose them all? I bet we lost them all. Yep, they're gone. Great. Yeah, I'll file. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, all my settings are gone. So, oh well. That's the way it landed for me. So let me. Yeah, I need to get the Edge version running here, because Firefox does not support voice interaction. So there's that. I can close this. And see, all the stuff I have to do to get this stream set up, man. Let me tell you. Nope. And I think we're just about ready to get back into this. That, and I don't need to see that. Yeah, welcome to 2026, right? Oof. But yeah, I'll be happy to file an issue. Not a problem. I'm usually pretty good at following up and filing issues, but I was dead in the water. Like you saw, it was not responding at all. All right, moving on. Back over to, hey, there we go. There we are, right over here. Single sign-on? No, I'm not enrolling this machine. No. There are, I've had issues in the past with security-aware organizations just all of a sudden cutting off access to things. And it's happened twice to my corporate machine that I have over here, where all of a sudden, like one day, I sit down like in the middle of the week. I worked the previous day, and the machine is wiped. Like, corporate decided to wipe it. I'm like, what the heck? Or you're locked out of this machine because it hasn't been attached to corporate the right way in the last month. Like, I've been reading emails and Teams on this for the last month. Doesn't matter. You are not allowed access. Like, okay. So losing several days on those types of interactions has been uncommon, but common enough that you're not touching my hardware. It's my hardware, it's my phone. If you want access to that stuff, if you want me to have gear that supports video editing and video production, give me it. If you want me to be on call so that wherever I am, I can be on my phone responding to you, assign me one. You don't get that access to my phone because in addition to wanting that access to my phone, you also want access to be able to wipe my phone. And I've had enough friends that have had their phones wiped because they were corporate enrolled devices that I know not to do that. So from me to you out there, know that the bring your own device to work, it does include the ability for them to wipe your device remotely. And some organizations will do that regardless of what you have on it. All those pictures of your kids, yeah, they're going to. The phone numbers for your loved ones, they're going to. So, yeah, personal machines, don't join them to the corporate. The idea of bring your gear to work was so nice and so compelling in 2016, 2017. Because of security concerns, and they're well-founded security concerns, to be sure. They want the ability to wipe and clear and manage those machines that have their stuff on it. Totally, you can do that. That means I'm not giving you access to my stuff then, for my security. That's my policy. That's the way I do things. Some of the folks that I work with think I'm paranoid about that. The security folks that I work with think that I'm perfectly within my within my bounds to do that. So when we dog food the latest bits in Windows and weirdness ensues. Yes. So it's a solid policy for me as much as it is for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But don't expect me to bring my gear and give you access to my gear. So when you got a new job, they asked if you want a corporate laptop or just use your own. Yep, take a corporate one. That's fine. And then it also gives me a solid line that I can draw between work and my hobby projects, my things that I do for home and where I play and whatever. I'm not installing Overwatch on the corporate machine, even though it is corporate product. I'm not installing OBS over there. Hey, why don't you do development on our projects and stuff over here on this machine? Because that machine stinks. So when I work on documentation and materials and workshops and training materials and lessons and things that I take out and I deliver in the community, they're open source things. It doesn't matter where I work on that on. There's no IP involved. But as soon as there's corporate IP involved, it's only on the corporate machine. And I don't work on corporate IP stuff, so it never happens. So, if you develop something on a non-corp machine, it isn't a corporate product. That's, yes, the open source things I do, I can do wherever I want. no problem. Piece of cake. So, things like we can talk now about. Now we can go back and talk about TAML. Oh, mud on. So, this is, right, this was, and let me come back over here. We can talk about this. This was our dig at YAML, right? This was our coming back to this and saying, hey, we don't like your spaces. We'd like to do tabs, right? And the initial idea was only tabs and new lines. No brackets, no braces, no colons, no quotes, no hyphens, just tabs and new lines. And when we look at an initial document like this, it's not bad. Kind of makes sense, right? I could see key value, key value, key value, and here's an object with a map to it. Here's an object with a key value pair mapped to it, and it has a property that has a, right, it's a complex object that has another set of fields that align to it. And here's a key with a list that's assigned to it. It's easy to see how that lines up. Weirdness starts to happen when you get to some of the boundary conditions. Like, what does an empty array look like? Right? Let me make sure. Yeah, here we go. Right? So now we'll start over in the document. So there's a bunch of issues that were opened off of that initial document and that I wrote, and the YouTube video. So check this out, right? Not the spec. We'll come back to that in a second. So there's ambiguity between maps and vectors. We'll come back to that in a second. Date support, empty lists. Here's the first one that kind of gets weird. How do we do an empty array? How do we do an empty map? So when you see a document like this, is that a key part of that element, right? And or is it an empty collection? Right? So child 0 here gets a little confusing, right? Is it an empty, is it a string that's part of this array? Is it declaring the beginning of an empty array? Is it declaring an object that has no, right, a map that has no key value pairs? So that can be confusing, no doubt. There's the interesting question of, why are you placing an entry if it's empty? Like, yeah, there's valid reasons for that, but do you really need that? I don't know. So there's this interesting need to be able to define, here's what an empty thing is. Okay. There is nulls and empty strings. Well, they seem kind of unnecessary, right? But I think as we get into talking about multi-line strings, in the same way of saying, well, we need to be able to have empty arrays empty maps. Having empty strings and null values, that's an exceptional situation that, yeah, okay. That should probably be handled. Andrew Arnott in here mentioned about the ambiguity between that, but Stephen also has this question about list of lists. How do we do multi-dimensional lists? So I suggested this idea of maps with syntax like this to emulate a sports scoreboard, right? We talked about this on a previous stream. So key value, key, and then there's an array of objects. So a list of lists or a multi-dimensional could be key, outer array, inner array, here's the collection, and then an indicator for here's the next element inside of it, and that. So could a list also look like dgen1 with a comment here? Sure. Yeah, that would work. What's the difference between list and maps? Right, there isn't. So, maps with unique and unimportant keys. Right. So, right, a list is just a set of keys. A map is a set of keys with values. And, right, then there's the uniqueness. Unique but unimportant keys. So, right, so up here where I had game, right, these are not key value. So it's an element in the array. It's an element in the list. So you can have multiple entries that have the same name. I printed a nameplate for my wife and she's got it set up at her desk now. So there's some interesting discussion on this. And there's this ambiguity between maps and lists. Right, so is the content of members a map? Or is it a vector with one element that is a map? So I did some talking to Copilot and came up with this. So children have tab separators, key value. Keys are unique identifiers. Order is not semantically significant. Configuration objects or dictionaries. So Alice, key value, key value. Vectors, right? Children are values only, no tabs. Order is semantically significant. Items accessed by position index, list arrays or sequences. A parent becomes a map if any direct child has a tab separator. A parent becomes a vector, a collection, a list, if all direct children lack tab separators. Mixed structures are invalid. You can't mix keyed and non-keyed children. So, so in this, are you naming your maps? If so, that looks like key tab value syntax, suggesting that users is a map. No, Users is an array. What if you have a vector of strings and some of the element strings have tabs in them? Let's come back to this. I see some chatter here. What happens if you specify a key with no value? What does it default to? So, key with no value means that it itself is either a string entry for the parent object, right? No, it's a string entry for the parent object. And it's part of a vector at that point. Yeah. If you want to put an empty string or null, right, which are hidden characters, that's where we put double quotes or the tilde to indicate empty string or null. Locarno, I think that means that if you want to avoid a distinction between a scalar item and a key value pair, there's no notion of map versus list. Maybe a term that can cover both. You can't mix keyed and unkeyed children. So, hey, Reg, how you doing there? So, let's mock this up. Let's talk this through, right? And this is where it's good to have these discussions. So, if we say, right? So, right? If I do the scoreboard example, right? Scoreboard and right. I can say that. Here, show me. Where is it? Show white space. What is it? Toggle white space. Yeah. So that you can see the tab there. Right. So that's an array because it's a key without a value, and then there's a value inside of it. Now, I could then do tab and do first game. Home is Philadelphia. I don't even know who they played last night. Away is oh, they were at Dallas is where they were, right? And so let me go back to this example that we had from a few days ago. Home score, I don't know. And away score, right? And so on and so forth. Home, really? Really? You're not even prompting me. You're just going to, fine, be that way. Home, New York. Yep, away. Seriously, I chose away. Whatever. Right, let me get rid of that. Dude, that's weird. That's so weird. VS Code. Don't save that. I don't need to save that. So, thinking about an object, right? Thinking about a class.
Now, but soon they'll face the compiler's judgment.
Why didn't you show that on screen, man? Right. If I were to do this as a C# class, right? Call it scoreboard. Yeah. No. Right. I would have a list of games called. I would have a list of league games, right? And yes. right? So to a little bit of the point, if I did something like this, I couldn't have repeated game entries there. I could have that, and I would want that. But inside of here, yeah, right? Game or match. But these start to fall away. What happens if you, so, right, first off, that would never not have a value. But let's say you needed it to be empty string. You could make it empty string. You could make it null by making it a tilde. And then you have that. So, and a third game with no children would be valid as well, yes. Yes, that would be valid. Which, to Andrew's question, why tilde? I was looking for, I didn't want to use the text null because I didn't want the word null. If you omit it, well, you've got a series of tabs here and no value. By that rule, you can't do that. So tilde is kind of the shorthand, it's null. To allow no value. Right? The question becomes, well, what is this, right? The match is clearly an object here. We don't know what type of object. It's a map, but if this were JSON, right? It would be that syntax. Which, right, that's valid JSON for, this is defining an object, a map, but it doesn't have any entries in it. No distinction with a key with no value and a plain string. No distinction between a key with no value and a plain string. So, a key with no value is a label that indicates we're opening a list or a map. Right? So, right, I could do, right, oh, wow. Close. Right, and I in here I could just do LeBron James, no. Steph Curry. Right? Now I have, right, inside my scoreboard, I have names, which is an array of match objects. Right? It's an array, it's a list of complex objects. I've also got an array of strings. So I'm supporting both simple types here, and I'm supporting complex types. But in order to support complex types, each one of those complex types, a map, needs to have a label to introduce it. I think that you're proposing there's no distinction between LeBron James and empty score empty. So, Locarno, the problem with that is then when I parse players, is this a label with an empty string value? Or do you have to leave tabs after that to indicate that there's an empty value? In my mind, one of the things about YAML that I'm trying to avoid is not just significant white space, but white space that you can't see, that indicates something of value. So because by saying it has an optional value, that makes it extremely hard to understand what these things are. By saying that in order to have a key value pair, you must have a value. And that value is a string, or it's one of two special characters. An empty string indicated by double quotes, or it's a null, that there is no value here and it isn't the empty string, by indicating tilde. That gives syntax without, and by making something visible without requiring extra comprehension from humans. So I'm going to come back to that other point about the distinctions between curly braces and square brackets, because there's this question is what comes up. So I think, right, these are just labels that are naming the maps. It does look like key tab value syntax, suggesting that users is a map. No, because there is no tab after that. It's a name in an array. And that's what I'm struggling with, Locarno, is the initial syntax, right? We're stepping into these places where we're in the exceptional situations. And I'm trying to minimize the amount of extra markup. Right? Go back. If we look at the examples, no, I was right. Like, hey, I'm Pulowski, Happy New Year to you. Like, that syntax looks pretty good, right? That's easy for us to understand. That is where it starts to get a little wonky. But the question of, well, how do I represent null? How do I represent empty string, right? When you're dealing with just key value and you have values, or you're dealing with a list, a key that defines the list, right, and the elements in it, it's very clear. And nested lists, very clear. Very clear, right? Teams is a list of engineering, design, and marketing. Engineering is these three values. Design is these two values. Marketing, and so forth. Those are very clear. It's the exceptional situations where we say there isn't a value. The array is empty. The key value pairs are not defined yet. Well, wait a sec. Like, right, and this is where we need to learn. We need to figure out. We need to discover how to best document those. and enforce those standards. DJ Deepex with the question of, are the keys case sensitive? It hasn't been a discussion yet. That's a great question. Are keys case sensitive? My initial impulse is yes, they are case sensitive. My initial impulse, right? That's what JavaScript and YAML and these other ones do. So that's my initial impulse. But these are good discussions to try and figure out here. Like, okay. Like, we have this discussion out here about, well, how do I escape tabs, new lines, and quotes? Right? How do I get around those? And there you go. And we had this idea of triple period to indicate shut off the parser for the next lines. And Deadpool hat? I don't have a Deadpool hat. Keys, so if keys are duplicated with no problem, right? So you think they're case sensitive since there is no special meaning. Right. I'm thinking towards case sensitive. But keys, I don't think those are keys.
Your debugging approach is remarkably similar to Mr. Stark's, chaotic, improvised, and surprisingly ineffective.
I don't think those are keys because they're the name introducing a map. But inside of a map, right, the key needs to be unique. So, right, once we if we add in here game date, right, I don't know where it came up with that, but sure. Right, now we've got a key value pair here. These can't be the same. What? Yeah, they need to be handled different. Yes. Right, look, where'd Locarno go? So right at that point where I've made this a complex object, right, this is hosting an array of these. I don't think that that's legit, and this needs to go up here. And then that works.
It's a puzzle, and I hold all the pieces.
What can? Keys duplicated? So how do you syndicate that to how do you serialize that? Like, really? You're going to do this to me? No. You're going to make me... No. And then if I in here put Washington, Chicago, right? That's now legit. How do you serialize that? Or is home an array with these three values then? Right, and I'm trying to tidy up the syntax. That's what we're trying to get to. Like, Change home score to score home. Spell it right, Fritz. No, don't save. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Weird Beard Dev. Good suggestion. Good suggestion. So, see, this is... So, right. That's... And Locarno, that's the question is, if we say keys must be unique, but entries in a vector do not need to be unique, is that a problem? Right? So, exactly. So, because these are entries in a list, they're okay. Or do we do something like that? If we say entries in a list or in a map must be unique, they get IDs without alpha characters. Yeah, ooh. Right, then now you run into some interesting... okay, numeric characters, yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting problem. I think we agree that having an empty space, tabs with no value, is not something we want to encourage. Tabs at the end of a line doesn't convey any meaning, right? That doesn't convey anything there. This thing we're gonna need to deal with at some point. This is the one where we're really working. So the suggestion... No, Locarno. What? You don't need match one, just one. Yes. No, exactly your point, right? As long as that's right, because those names don't appear anywhere. You're right. Right? I don't care what they are, but that's an object. That's an object. That's an array. But when you're in a key value scenario, that's illegal. Does it make sense to require unique values in a list? Then you can't model the Fibonacci sequence, right? Right? That's illegal because you've got two ones. But you don't want to number them. You don't want to number them. Right, and then you run into some sort of an indicator here that, hey, here's an object and all the things beneath it. And the initial concept was, well, I don't need to do that. And eliminating these doesn't make sense. Unless... What about that? Because there's a blank line, it's indicating that there's a new hash. We've put 2 carriage returns. New map. Chris Funk, that's a great question. Let me come back to that in just a few minutes here. I absolutely want to answer that. Do me a favor. Rewrite that with a question mark or include my name in it so I can get it queued up here in the in my queue here. Blank line significant? Yeah. We're already making tabs and spaces significant in YAML and TAML. So why not? It's not a blank line, it's a carriage return is significant. Which is the same, right? You already have that significance going on. But when you're in a map, double carriage return is this is a new entity. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Chris Funk. Right? The carriage, you see this already in YAML. Right? It's already significant. To indicate this is the next collection of things. Right? That's not needed there. So, how you doing there, homeless rogue? Happy New Year to you. But I would need to do that to indicate that that this is one element, this is another element, and then an empty element in there. That's right. They're doing hyphen and indent level to indicate that. But it's not just that, it's also the carriage return. Because remember, right? I can do what do we have up here? Scoreboard, league, game date, right? I can do in JSON. What? No, hang on. Yeah. Right? That's legit JSON. Key, and then there's an initial key value on the same line. That's legit. That's not legit in YAML. It must be on a new line. A new line indicates start of the next value. It is complicated. So while the carriage return an empty line is not significant in YAML, a carriage return character is significant because it indicates the start of the next key value pair, the next map, the next list. So, right. So if in our language, if we said the presence of a new line introduces that, Now that becomes, for human eyes, that's visually separated. I can see that those are separate things, right? Teaching the machine that that extra space is important. If we use the same idea with tabs at the beginning, you can have any number of tabs at the beginning, you can have any number of tabs in between. It's the presence of non-tab characters that indicates that this is a key, this is a value. It would be the same thing vertically with spaces, right? My tenet that I'm trying to stick to is I want as few special characters as possible and make it as readable as possible. How do we put those rules around it? So I'm going to want to come back to that in a second. And let's highlight this. We have this interesting conundrum around defining complex objects that appear in a list in a TAML document. Period. I'm not sure that we want to provide some sort of an intro character to indicate the beginning of a complex object. Period. For simplicity, I'm considering suggesting we leave an empty space. No, we leave a new line between key value pairs in the list. Whoa. Holy smokes. I'm gonna trash this and go get another one. We leave an empty line between key value pairs to indicate the start of a new complex object. Discuss pros and cons of this approach. And let's make sure we include that. Yeah, that was weird. Like, once again, Visual Studio Code, not happy with me. Let me go back while this is running. We'll let it grind away there, but I want to come back to this question that Chris Funk had. What's my best trick for avoiding isolation of being remote? I have a couple different ways that I've dealt with this, because I've been an independent contributor working from home, isolated, for 13 years now. 14, it'll be 14 in November. Several things. Don't just stay at home in your home office, at your desk. Find ways to get out, go different places, work from the local coffee shop, go to the library, work from there. Find some, there's a co-working space in a town near you. If it costs you $10 to get a table for the day, do it. I haven't used that. I've used other things where there's a Microsoft office nearby, and I've gone over there and I've worked from there so that there's people around and I can socialize in the kitchen and in the open spaces water cooler, what have you. That's one thing. I've clearly got a family and friends nearby. When work is done, I'm spending time with them. Third, I've kept a Discord voice chat open at times just all day, especially during COVID. I would keep a Discord voice chat open all day, and every now and then folks would just drop in and say, hey, I want to talk about XYZ. And we'd pause and talk about whatever for a little bit, and we'd go back to our individual tasks and whatever at that point. So if it's Discord, if it's Zoom, if it's Teams, having that kind of water cooler space that you're hanging out in, important. Leaning in on social media, I'm not going to recommend right now because of how toxic both the left and the right are. There is zero tolerance on the left for anything that smells like it's from the right. And the folks on the right want to do everything they can to get under the skin of the folks on the left. I would not hang out on social media right now. And honestly, the way that things are going, I wouldn't look at social media again until 2029. If it's not LinkedIn or one of those social media services that is specific to a certain content, topic, genre, like going and hanging out in the Star Trek Reddit, go for it. Going and watching and participating in the chat on the baseball YouTube videos, go for it. But man, it can get toxic so quickly. I would avoid social media because then it turns into doom scrolling and then feeling isolated and worrying about your side, their side. Ugh. So I'd avoid it. And it's not healthy. It really isn't healthy, the amount of doom scrolling that everybody is doing on the social networks. I don't think anybody is happy about it because everybody is on the social networks, and I'm looking at you, Twitter and Blue Sky and Mastodon. Everybody is trying to get the other side. They're trying to rile up. They're trying to make folks angry. That doesn't help anybody. Attending user groups virtually. Finding a group of folks like this. Cool. Totally cool. I hang out in other Twitch channels all the time. Having that extra voice just there in the background that you can chat with, that you can hang out with, totally. That's the problem with some of the larger Twitch streamers, is that some folks just flat out will ignore everything that's said here unless a moderator puts it up, which makes moderators' jobs so hard. Or there's another level of streamer where they won't look at your message unless you pay them. Unless you tip $5, they won't even look at your message. This over here is for you. It's not to talk to them, and they're not going to acknowledge it. They will acknowledge what's in the tip queue. That feels like a paid friend. Like, no. I don't do that. Like, these folks are entertaining. These folks they've got an edge to them. They're whatever. I don't find them to be. They're not somebody that I want to hang out and talk to for hours on end. They're not somebody that I would go to the pub and grab a drink with, right? They're not somebody that I'd go to dinner and have a nice conversation with. They wouldn't go to dinner unless you paid them $500 to go to dinner with you. Like, really? Granted, there is a scale and there is a size that some streamers, some folks One second here. That some folks, they need to be able to manage. There's just too much going by. Totally get it. Totally get it. And that's where I think moderators can help with that. And that's why I built this thing. So that when you do ask questions, when you do put my name on here, it gets brought to my attention and I can scan through that a little bit easier. I try to read every message that comes through here, and I think I do a pretty good job with that. But this is how you'll get my attention, and I'm absolutely talk to you, and I think that goes a long way. But having friends that you can talk to outside of the office is a big deal. Whether it's right, maybe you have a church group, maybe you have some sort of other group of folks that you hang out with at your place of worship, your mosque, your temple, your church, whatever it is, and you go and you spend time hanging out with them, finding that group, that tribe, that set of folks is going to go a long way to helping with that. Yeah, working and being in isolation, it can stink, but that's why I like having that open channel on Discord, that open voice channel that, hey, I can just talk to whoever. That goes a long way also. So I hope that helps. Best of luck, and I've thought about doing office hours and leaving stuff open on Discord for a bit. We'll see. We'll see. You have a local group called Nerd Dinner that we hang out on Fridays for dinner. Yes! Yes. There you go. Good luck, Chris Funk. And look, when I'm out at events, Sean will tell you, when I'm at an event and I'm at the event, I'm on, right? I'm C# Fritz. I'll go to dinner and I'll peel back a little bit from that. Go to dinner, go to the hotel bar afterwards, and right there is absolutely a peeling back of that, and happy to talk, happy to connect with anybody. I do spend a lot of time away then from all that stuff so that I can have that downtime away from and unwinding and not needing to be on. And that's me. And it's a tricky balance, finding you need some time away from peopling and socializing and getting those spoons that you need so that you do feel like you're part of the group. But there's times for everything, and finding balance. You lean towards being an introvert, so I would tell you I lean that way also. I lean towards introvert a bit also. Like when I did VS Live in Orlando in November, I had 2 days off. I had Monday and Tuesday off. I get full day workshop on Sunday, 2 days off. I spent Monday and Tuesday morning working on things, headphones on, VR headset on, working, and quiet, just music playing like this, doing my thing. And I wasn't working with anybody. It was very isolated. It got me focused. I got my tasks done. And then I went out and I sat by the pool and read a book, and there were people around, families around, and whatever. I wasn't interacting with them, but I was in enough of a social situation that it was good. And then went and socialized and taught classes and social hour, cocktail hour afterwards, and then take an hour or two before bed, read a book, watch TikTok videos, whatever, relax and unwind. And then it's the balance. Yeah, alone versus alone, right? Like working in an office working at a cube where you don't want to be bothered, but you're around people alone, right? Versus there's nobody else in the house with me except for Banana the dog. Like, alone. So, all right. Let me head back over to I need a TAML channel in project chat. Let's see here. Where to go? Project chat. There we go. There we go. Discussion of the tab annotated markup language TAML, and I'll put a link to the GitHub. Oh no, I don't need to do the GitHub. I can just do taml.net. There we go. All right, there's a TAML channel now. So, hey, typical hard worker, how you doing there? Yes, Banana. I have a dog named Banana. I had dogs named Comet and Dee Dee and Ozzy, and dog came with the name Banana. His sister was named Lemon. So, and there we go. Hearing the word project makes you nervous. So there's work projects and then there's hobby projects, right? You're building a birdhouse. That's a project. It's something fun, something interesting. I've been doing things with my 3D printer. Those are projects. Designing, figuring out, sending it over to the printer, cleaning it up, getting it ready, printing, seeing what that looks like. That's a project. A little bit different. What happened to my left eye? I'm fighting a little bit of conjunctivitis. So, trust me, I am a lot better than I was the other day. Ooh. So, your brain can't think of anything better than a weather API app? Sure it can. Sure it can. And that's just it. Don't drown yourself in you need to figure it out. This is where I talk to Copilot. Hey, I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. Give me some ideas. I'm interested in ABC. Give me some ideas. So, when should you open the PR to TAML C++? Whenever you want. Mark it as draft mode. So, let's go back over here and go back to this discussion of TAML syntax. I could see the issue clearly. In the game section, you have multiple game objects, but no clear way to distinguish where one game ends, the next one begins. Let me analyze the pros and cons of using empty lines as object separators. My dependency is dependency itself. Is it? Let me see here. Sounds like I'm implying that scalar values can be repeated, but keys cannot be repeated. Yes. Locarno, that's where I was leaning, but I think need to right, that's where I want to get some validation here. So, you do need a way to distinguish scalars from valueless keys. Yes. You'd want to consider not distinguishing scalars from valueless keys. Not distinguishing scalars from valueless keys. Well, how would you do it? How would you specify this is a scalar, that this is not? Do you wrap the value in quotes? Well, then is it a number? Is it a Boolean? Is it a date? We need to figure that out. You play Bitcraft Online, want to create an app to track your in-game crafting? Okay. So, Weirdbeard Dev, I would take that and bounce it off of Copilot and drive out some other ideas and kind of brainstorm with it. So, Let me tell you what. Weirdbeard dev, let's come, hang on. Locarno says just allow, let me do this. Let me finish looking at this and going through Locarno's discussion there about not distinguishing. And I'm going to come back to Jackrabbit. Jackrabbit 2, do me a favor. Repeat that same comment. Put a question mark at the end so it goes into my question queue. Okay? And we're going to play right into Weirdbeard Dev's suggestion there. I love that. I want to talk further about that, but let me finish this topic first. So in this example, right, it's ambiguous whether this represents 4 separate games with incomplete data. Blah. Okay, 2 games where the first has multiple home teams, which is invalid, or some other structure. Pros of using empty lines of object separators. It maintains the minimalist philosophy. I like that. Yeah, thank you, Jackrabbit. There we go. There we go. Now it's in my queue. We'll come back to that. Appreciate it. Leverages existing white space that's already part of the format. Yeah. Keeps the visual simplicity that makes it attractive. Totally. Natural visual grouping. Empty lines already provide visual separation in many contexts. Humans naturally use blank lines to group related content. Yes. Would make complex object boundaries immediately obvious. Totally. Current parsers likely ignore blank lines already. Wouldn't break existing TAML documents. That isn't really a thing. Could be implemented as optional parsing mode initially. I don't know about that. Maybe. Consistent with documentation practices, many configuration formats use blank lines for logical grouping. INI files, yeah, okay. Aligns with how people naturally write structured text. Yes. Semantic significance of white space is a con. Makes blank lines syntactically meaningful rather than just aesthetic. Could confuse users. Violates the principle that white space should be ignorable. No, that's not a principle in this at all. Because those tabs are significant. The depth of those tabs indicates the ownership of those. Parsers need to track and interpret blank lines differently. Yes. Add state management to what should be a simple parsing process. Well, we already are because we have to maintain the depth. So I'm not sure about this. The place where it would be weird is if I wanted to do that. Right? Like, but maybe that's okay. Or, right? That suddenly becomes a thing. Let's continue. Inconsistent says parsers should ignore blank lines. Yeah, we would be changing that. Could use a nested structure instead. Yeah, there with the unique key names. Auto formatters might add remove blank lines. Version control diffs. Explicit indexing. Yeah, that's the same thing. 0, 1. Descriptive keys. A uniform object structure, and this is what Copilot's recommending. Force all objects in a list to have the same complete structure. And there's the nulls. I'd recommend against using empty lines as object separators. Introduces complexity that conflicts with the design. A nested approach with explicit keys is clearer and more maintainable. So the way that I was recommending we go with this. Preserve formatting freedom. Okay. So let's try the voice again here. No, I was this one. Okay, let's go with providing some sort of a unique index text for entries in the map collection. In the Mapped object collection. Some sort of a key text. What do you think of not requiring those keys to be unique? Question mark. Really? You're not going to type question mark? While that's going, let me come back over. And you saw me do a little bit of this already, but I want to come to Jack Rabbit's question there. I agree, Locarno, the reasons aren't that great. Let me come to this question right here. What do I think about the AI hype and software engineers no longer being needed? If somebody tells you software engineers are not needed, they are not understanding the current tools that are available, the capacity of those tools, the accuracy of those tools, the privacy and reliability of those tools. Those are 5 very big things that they don't understand. However, the AI tools do make it easier for us to accomplish more. I'm not going to say you don't need software engineers. I am going to say your software engineers are going to be able to accomplish a lot more. So let's come back around to a little bit of this discussion that we saw just a little bit ago in chat from folks. A typical hard worker was asking, gosh, I'm having a hard time thinking of a hobby project, something to work on, to learn from. And Weirdbeard Dev chimed in and says, well, I play Bitcraft online and want to create an app to track my in-game crafting. Okay. At this point, if we were in a business, in some sort of an organization that hired software engineers, we would bring in a project manager, an analyst, and they would start to talk to customers, talk to potential users, and figure out, well, what do folks actually need in their Bitcraft app that's going to track in-game crafting? What do those folks actually need? And then analyze and iterate and look at the problem and spend some time kind of designing something. Well, we can talk that out with the AI, drive out some of those ideas, and even get to a prototype first. Then it's not that we don't need software engineers. We've enabled our analysts to get through their tasks faster, do more in-depth analysis. At that point, there's external case scenarios that are going to become very interesting to them, that they're going to identify and be able to work with and be able to more quickly communicate to the software developers. Being able to mock up a user interface, a prototype, something that does some initial feature and hand that off to software developers who can take that and, with their own AI tools, extend, grow, and plug that into the rest of the application, the tool set, whatever it is. That goes a long way, right? So we're simplifying and accelerating how folks work with these things. And then we can generate and work with documentation and quality assurance testing and these things so that the software developers and those project analysts can focus on the things that they do best, and that toil can kind of fall away and they can focus. I'm not going to say that you don't need software developers. There may come a point where you don't need as many software developers. But I think there are also enough companies, there are enough organizations that have concepts and things that aren't even in the project plan, that aren't even on the roadmap, because there's so much work that needs to be done now, that those pie-in-the-sky visions of, hey, wouldn't it be great if, those things are now in play. Those things now can be considered. Those things you can give to the intern and they can go off and talk to and get some ideas around what that pie in the sky, really moonshot feature is. bring that back to the development team and say, hey, here's a little bit of what I figured out. And then you can iterate on it a little bit more and figure out and grow from there. So those things, those moonshot ideas, they're now in play, right? I'm sure there's ideas, there's concepts, there's features that have been floated for, hey, wouldn't it be great if our application did this? Well, now you can actually talk about that because you can get there faster, sooner, better with higher quality when you use your AI tools better. They're tools. They're not complete replacements. There are folks that are using the term, you've got an AI teammate. Don't use that term. Don't use that term. There are people that I work with that use that. Do not humanize the AI. The AI is a calculator. It calculates what text should appear next given a valid context. At some level, you need to program that by writing prompts, by writing configuration. And yes, many of those things are clear text written in Markdown. Copilot instructions, agent MD files, skill MD files, MCPs. These things that enable the AI to build things faster. Somebody needs to do the meta programming to expose and provide those capabilities. Those are tools that you are maintaining and growing. Don't refer to them as another member of your team. Do not humanize the AI. Now, Charlie's different, right? Charlie's a little bit different. He can be paranoid. So, don't humanize it. It's not a human. It's a machine. It doesn't have thoughts. It doesn't think. Somebody told it to do that. It scanned the content of the internet, including all the best parts, including all the worst parts. And when you tell the AI things with a negative tone, it will be just as negative back at you. Okay? So, what do I think of it? It's a tool. Look at it as a tool. It is not a personality, and you'll be able to get a lot more out of it, knowing that it assists and grows your business process, less so than hey, look, it replaces people. I don't need people because I've got the AI to do it. That's not the way it works. So, thanks for the question. Really happy that we could talk about that. We do get that a lot. How you doing there, Surly Dev? You've been trying to get your machine to work with SQL Server 2016 and SSIS packages in 2022. Oh boy. You think a lot of people seem to think software development and engineering is just chugging out code? Nope. Nope. It's solving problems. It's doing the artistry that is the engineering that delivers and solves that problems. AI opens up the capacity to finally get to those backlog items. Yes, PC nerd. So, all right, let me head back over to the code over here. I agree they weren't fantastic reasons, but let's talk through this a little bit more about how we want to do lists, complex collections, right? So something like this, game, right? Game is it used to be a non-unique key to identify each object. Pros of non-unique: semantic clarity. Describes what the object is. It's more readable than arbitrary indices or generated names. Yep. Don't need to generate unique identifiers. Easier to write by hand. Totally. Natural language. Yep. Consistent structure. But it violates map semantics. Key value maps assume unique keys. Could confuse developers familiar with standard data structures. Makes random access by key impossible. Yeah. When a parser encounters duplicate keys, it needs to decide. Convert to array automatically, overwrite the previous value, reject as invalid, combine somehow. Different languages handle this differently. Last key wins, last key wins, last key wins. Exceptions are on duplicate keys. How do you access the second game? What if we distinguish based on key uniqueness? Collection syntax, non-unique keys allowed. Games, game, game. Map syntax, unique keys required. Traditional key value map behavior. So you would have teams, you'd have Philadelphia, and that would be a map with a collection. Yeah. When a parser encounters duplicate keys at the same level, switch to collection mode. That's not just keys. That's a bear key. Let's make sure we have this right. We're talking about what? Yeah, that's fine. Use any single character as a key for the head of the item in the list. Would people just come to use I or dash? Maybe. Maybe. We're talking about a key with no value on the same line. A bear key. No, orphaned key. Nah, bear key. Indicates the start of a collection or map. You put a suggestion in Discord. Where? Bear key. A bear key is a key with no value on the same line. It indicates the start of a nested structure. When we have duplicate bear keys at the same level, it indicates a collection of objects. Different from duplicate keys with values, which would be yes, right? You can't have property, right? When we serialize that, that doesn't turn into so the structure detection is game's bear key contains children. First game starts the first object, but a second converts it to a collection. Games becomes a list of game objects, not a dictionary. What do you think? That sounds more realistic to me. Any key you want to start each object, the documentation could suggest using item or I, totally, or even numbers, right? Then you can access those objects in the list with that, with either an ordinal or with that key name, right? I also want to make sure that we can have a collection with unique keys in the collection as well, but no child objects. We can support. So a bear key with no value starts an object. Duplicate bear key confirms that this is a collection. Collection with unique bear keys. Simple values. So teams, Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago. Yes, Locarno. So multiple key value pairs at the same level with the same key, right? So this syntax is invalid because the home key for that key value pair at that same nesting level, invalid. This is a list of a string or an array mixed. So features, authentication, database, API gateway. So it's just those. That's the same thing. So a bear key with children is an object in a collection. A bear key without children is just a string value. Hey, Codebase Alpha, how you doing? Pellin, hello. Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. I don't think we've had that pop up. No, it didn't. Well, wait a second. Reload that joint. Oh, yeah. Well, there's Las Vegas. Look at that right there. Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Oh, my gosh. And Birmingham, Codebase Alpha, you're about to get being traded over to Birmingham. Rambling Geek, hello.
Rambling Geek just resubscribed for 45 months.
45 months. Thank you so much for that support. Codebase Alpha, Birmingham, say it right, is about to get one of our top defenders for Philadelphia Union. He's being traded to Birmingham. I guess Tom Brady made a phone call here, and he's going to be headed your way today, next week, something like that, to help Birmingham in the championship. Did you see Wrexham with the win over the weekend? I mean, that was they absolutely should have won that match against, it was Blackburn? Yeah, the Blues. I see it there. They owned Wrexham last year with 2 wins. But Wrexham moved to 10th in the championship table. It's still, right, we're 25 matches into the year. We still got, what, 23 to go? 21 to go? So, still a long way to go there. But, man, promising. So, love seeing the maps. Thank you for chiming in. Playing the map game. You're close to Liverpool? Well, doesn't map I'm close to. But ooh, I'm almost out of bits. How'd that happen? Need to get more bits. I only buy like $20 of bits at a time. Like, there we go. All right, now we've got bits again. Are you the only German here? Well, it didn't map anything in Germany for you. Hello from Wilhelmshaven? Oh, thank you, Sean. That's right. Put that tag in Wales. Right. Hello from Philly. And there's where I am. So. Oh my goodness. Hype train incoming. Weirdbeard Dev with the resub.
Weirdbeard
16.
just resubscribed for 16 months. Even though I return to the office, I still want to support when I can catch a stream. D.
Thank you, Weirdbeard Dev. Hope you're having a fantastic... No, it's a Friday. But, yeah. Tell your friends, tell your family, your coworkers there that yeah, tune in, have some fun with us over here. Let's see. If a parent has any children, if any parent is a bear, if any child is a bear key with children, it's a collection of objects. Else, if all children are bear keys without children, it's a collection of strings. Else, if all children are key value pairs, map dictionary. So users, Alice, email role. That's a list of user objects. That's a collection of strings. Host port. That is a dictionary of string object. Pellin with the hype!
Pellon underscore alt cheered 500. Pellona 1 in your face hypo.
Thank you so much for the cheer. Really appreciate that. Did we get? Yeah, we got Marysville, Washington on the map. Oh yeah. Kick off the tour. So I think if we clarify that, that'll help Andrew's point. And then we need to figure out how to do empty. And I think empty is another one of those where we're going to need to introduce a character. Visiting some friends on the long holiday weekend? Nice. So I leave tomorrow afternoon for Orlando, and I'll be there next week. I will not be streaming next week. So there we go. There we go. Couple more. Run! No. I am not running. I will be seeing some of our runner friends, but I will not be running. No. I'm looking forward to seeing some of our runner friends. So there you go. Say hi to the mouse. I plan to. We're there for a funeral on Wednesday. And instead of coming, I'm entitled to a week of bereavement. So instead of coming right back, we're gonna take the weekend and go visit the mouse. So it's a bit cold in Norway. Well, yeah. Yes, I will be seeing Fierce. I do plan to see her, and I'm probably gonna see Misty as well. So yeah. So coming back to this, I think that's behavior, yes. And watch this. This I think is really, really cool that we can do. Yes, I think that does. Let's move this over into the editor. Yeah. I think that does address my concerns. We have an open issue on the GitHub repository about this. And I could say fetch and give it the link to that. Review that issue and report back if this spec enhancement, if this proposed enhancement addresses those concerns. So seems to me that you could let every bear key without children represent a possible empty collection. Sure. Okay. Any application would have to distinguish it according to its interpretation. Yes. Let's go back to that in a second. Right? Did we get Amsterdam? Oh yeah. We got you right there. Now why is it way over there? right? There, that's in the right place. I have a feeling it moved while I wasn't on it, but all right, so the discussion here. The homeless rogue is in Netherlands as well, in Amsterdam, and it should have plotted a 2 on that. 1 second. The homeless rogue. No, I don't have it plotting it for you. Just drop the as well there, and it should pick up and plot a 2 on the Amsterdam. There you go. Minneapolis. There we go. Exceldro, how you doing? Yeah. I don't think, did it... what do we got up here? No. Didn't plot one for Exceldro, probably because of the emote. So. Okay. So what exactly is TAML? Oh, have I got a document for you? And I should embed the TAML video on this. So TAML is the idea of a tab-only markup language. And we're trying to drive out some of the weird scenarios around collections versus maps. So, looking at the selected lines, yeah. Are these separate home values, a collection of home team names? No, these are invalid duplicate keys. Yep, that's, yes. Duplicate keys with values is an error. Yes. Expect issue concerns this addresses. Yes. How hard can it be, right? Yeah. It didn't have access to fetch the web page. What? Oh. Why don't you have access? Specific can we do agent and add it because it'll have that? There it is. See, it's got fetch. There it is. Right. So, are bear keys that become structure for objects in a collection. Parser needs to read ahead to distinguish. Yes. Empty structures are ambiguous. Empty container with no children. Yeah. So, parent becomes map if any child has a tab separator. Parent becomes a vector if all children lack tab separators. I think you're right, Locarno. Yes. Now, why am I not hearing that? Oh. Enables direct conversion. TAML with our enhancement. Users, user. Clear YAML equivalent. Users. Yeah. Granted, that's an extra bit of notation. Okay. So let's go back over here. Right, so ordered collections, advanced structures, structure detection rules. Yeah. There it is. Let's update the specification around collections and advanced structures with these new rules that we have discussed here. Now let's see what it updates here. Hey, Mattis, how you doing there? You probably wouldn't need user repeat it. Totally, Locarno. Totally, right? You could use 1, 2, 3. Absolutely. And yeah, the example over here, right? Let's get rid of that so it stops getting a little confused. Happy New Year. How's things? So, like, let's update the documentation here, get Andrew back his question, and then we need to talk about empty collections and empty maps. I'm tempted to say for an empty array, yeah, use the square brackets, use the curly braces for empty maps. So let's see what it updated over here. So we'll go up to the top of this example document, and it added games, game, like that. TAML supports 2 fundamental data structure types that are automatically detected based on structure and naming of children. Maps. A map is a collection of unique key value pairs or unique key object pairs. Syntax options. Key value pairs, key tab value. Key object pairs, unique bare keys. Keys with no value on the same line that have children. Keys are unique identifiers. Order is preserved, suitable for configuration objects, dictionaries, records. So a map of values, server, host, port, SSL. Okay. Vectors, environment, development, production. So it's an ordered collection. A collection is an ordered list of values or objects, identified duplicate, bare keys, or consistent value-only children. A collection of values, features with authentication, logging, caching. Notice it changed it to tabs instead of spaces. Collection of strings. Allowed methods, get, post, put, delete. And collection of objects. Users, user, name Alice, email, role. Bob, Charlie. Advanced structures, nested combinations. So a collection of maps, database connections, connection, so on, connection, so on. Map containing collections. Application, name my app, features, ports, nested collections. Matrix, row, and then structure detection rules. Map of values, map of objects, map of collection of values. Collection of strings if all children are unique bare keys without children. I think these two are the same. Aren't these two the same? Yeah. A value with no key, a bare key without. Okay. So consolidate those and remove extra examples. That tab emote would be tab emoji works. Yeah, apply that. Cool. It's still out there. Oh, collection of objects. Yes. Okay. I don't know about that. Oh, yes. No, that is. Yeah, okay. Right. So, no, I didn't. It finished. That doesn't make sense because there's a bare key here with no value. Duplicate bare keys convert to a collection of objects. Hang on. Put this on a... Let's put this on a different branch. Ooh, hang on. Yeah, it's just a readme. Feature collections. I think that sounds good. And I don't need to get into these, so yeah. Added definition for collections versus maps. So 30 and 34, I think we just addressed. No. There we go. Line 304. Hang on. Yeah, there's nothing there. Go away. 304 here. Could be interpreted as a null without. That feels dangerous to me. That feels dangerous. Like, if authentication truly is, right, truly is a thing, right, just drop a doodad there, or one of those. The next question to consider is not dates. This one. How do we do empty ones? And how can we use this new specification to help denote empty collections or maps? You'd like to hear a use case where distinguishing empty collections from scalar keys is necessary. Lots happening here. Right, and to go back to the question of, well, do we need developers, right, when we've got AI? We're designing and building something, and we're quickly going through options and getting that syntax visualization with the pros and cons so we can make educated decisions more quickly because we're getting that code and pseudocode generated in front of us. So is that an empty collection? Is that an empty collection of objects? Or is it an empty map? Just these three things sitting here. Special bare key names to indicate the type of empty structure. That's not terrible, but now we're making something that is tied to a string value. Yeah, magic keywords. If we extend the null syntax, map with an empty value versus empty map. I would almost put the null on a new line. Yeah, magic keywords is ugly. Hey, Urban Blaster, how you doing? Type hint comments. Now, what I've already said that I don't like. I don't want to put hash, and the rest of the line is commented out. I don't like that. I only wanted to do hash at the beginning of a line. Let the surrounding structure provide hints. Yeah. Extend the null syntax. Empty collection of values. Empty collection of objects. I think the tilde character to indicate it's an empty collection should appear on the next line and tabbed in and indented as though it were an object in the collection. But then what happens if null is a member of the collection? Then you're saying that the collection cannot have the value null in it. Right? But what is a collection with null in it? Oh. Doesn't this make it confusing if we want to report that we have a collection with a null value stored in it? Yeah. Yeah. Special empty marker. Double tilde for empty. Or we accept the ambiguity. Double tilde doesn't feel too bad. That's an empty collection. Then how do we represent an empty map? Is there a similar approach we can take to represent an empty map? I have an idea on this, but I want to see what it says. Empty structure markers. Tilde equals suggest a key value relationship. What do you think? Exceldro, that was where I was going to go. That was where I was going to go. Empty string null, because then it's like an empty key with no value, or maybe a tab between them, right? Right, and \t and tilde. Combine an empty string for a key value pair for a key in a key value pair. That has a null value. So, right, so you're starting the map, and the one entry in the map is empty string key, null value. Well, if that matter, then Exceldra, what about tilde tab tilde? I guess it visually is a little bit easier to read. And this was another direction that I had. And right,
I want to play a game. It's called Find the Bug Before It Finds You.
No. So, to be clear, these are extreme scenarios, right? These are boundary conditions, right? The number of times that you're going to have in a scoreboard situation like this, right? That you're going to have a scoreboard with no games. That's the exception. To have something that looks a little bit off, I'm okay with. to have a map with no key value pairs. Weird. Versus, right, the alternative would be to put a pair of square brackets here or a pair of curly braces here, right? Right, that's the way you would do it in JSON. Features with no children is an unknown type, right? That's technically an error. Features, new line tab, double tilde is an empty collection. Features, new line, tab, tilde is a collection with one item and it's null. Config, new line, tab, double quote, tab, tilde is that. And I think that's still the very readable that we're looking for. Yeah, folks are going to look at this and go, I don't know what that is. But you're going to be able to infer, well, there's nothing there when you're reading it. Starting to sound like a game's cheat code. Did you know? Charlie knows the Konami code. One command on each line. Spell it out. It does. If you're reading TAML configuration file and you want games, I came across nothing where I expect an array of items to be, so there are no games. Where I want the string games, and it unexpectedly has children. Hang on. Let me read that again. I come across nothing where you expect an array of arrays items to be. Well, you don't know if there's going to be an array of items unless we support schema. Then you know that there should be an array of items. So what do you think, Exceldro? One second here. All right. Hello. How you doing, Pelin? Yeah. Did you know you answered you wrote a message in chat with ends with a question mark, so it goes into my queue? Actually, no, it's not long enough. Not a long enough message. Yeah, I can't think of a better one right now. The other way to go would be, right? Would be, so that says that there's an array here and it's empty, right? And I would put that on yeah. But right, it's right here. This is going to get weird. Right, that just says it's an array, but then if it's an array of map items that we don't have now, oh. Right. So Once you start introducing that, now you're at JSON. Now you're doing JSON. Like, you're just quotes away from JSON. Like, you haven't. JSON with tabs. Right, and JSON works with having that, right? Instead of this, you actually, right? You actually have null, the keyword null, and because it's not inside of quotes, right? It's the null value. So it keeps it short, keeps it to the point, and it looks ugly to us now. But how many times are you going to have empty collection or an empty map? And if you have an empty collection, you don't know what the type is that was in the collection. Right? Doing the empty, right? If for games, right? Well, if there weren't any games tonight, it's in JSON, it's just that. Well, you have no idea what type was inside of the games collection. So it's ambiguous, and I'm okay with that. You're deserializing into a type somewhere. It's a collection of I don't know what's because there weren't any provided. When we introduce the concept of schema, then you know what was expected. That to me is the real exceptional scenario. Like the number of times where you have a key and not null object, an empty map, an undefined map. Like, that feels weird to me, right? Like, there's something here, but there's nothing, it doesn't have any properties. Empty collections is one thing. Empty maps, right? That I'm okay with. That makes sense. There weren't any games. Okay. That's weird. Oh, fantastic. Thank you, DJ Deepex. Right? Like, what's the difference between that and that? There is a difference. You're saying there's something here, but I don't know what it is. There's nothing here. Like, I don't want to get into too much of a twist on this when...
Hang on.
Okay.
Before you deploy, might I suggest, and I'm just spitballing here,
okay,
fixing it first?
No! We're not going to fix it first. A something that is nothing. No. It's not a something that is nothing. It's a something, but we don't know what it is. It's like empty versus white space. Right. It's an object, but we don't know what the object is. In my strongly typed mind, I hate that. In my strongly typed mind, I hate that. Great, you got a thing. So what? No, okay, there's nothing there. It right, Sean. Now then it ends up getting a dynamic type. But for Ruby and JavaScript and Python, that's a thing. That's a thing. A schema would help define the ambiguity. Totally. Totally. And I think there is a place for schema coming. No, so which ambiguity are you suggesting? A bare string can represent a single value, a keyed array, or a keyed map. A bare string can represent a single value, or an empty array, or an empty keyed map. And if you're deserializing into an object, then you know where it's going. You know games is going into a collection of game objects. And the fact that games doesn't have a value next to it or below it that's indented, it's empty. Team stats doesn't have any key value pairs beneath it, but it's deserializing into an object that has into a dictionary called team stats, and it's a dictionary of string. It's an empty dictionary. It's an issue when you're deserializing only. When you're serializing and you're serializing that games list, that games, list of strings, and maybe it's backgammon, checkers, chess, but that array of strings is empty, then it's just games with nothing underneath of it. When you transmit that, there's nothing underneath of it, so it looks like what if we just made it ambiguous and did not require a value next to an empty map or an empty collection? Question mark. This is really only a problem when we're deserializing, right? Question mark. I think you're yes, and it's a readability issue. Much more pragmatic approach. Context usually provides clarity. Schema type information available. Most applications have database schemas, class definitions, API contracts, configuration that tell you what the type an empty structure should be. So if we defer it, become a class becomes a dictionary of string object or list object based on the first edition, or schema-driven parsing. Most structures aren't empty. In a real-world usage, configuration files usually have values. Data files usually contain data. Empty structures are edge cases. You'll be making your first hobby project? Hey, that's great! Typical hard worker! What'd you have in mind? Don't give us the full details, but can you give us an idea of, in a sentence, what it is that you're looking at working on? I'm glad you were able to find your way through and brainstorm something to work on. Right? Brainstorm, is that something that's not just an English or American thing? Right? Brainstorm, right? We use that. So these are all valid. These are all valid, and their meaning is context dependent. Features, completed games, user settings. Empty, empty, empty. Type becomes clear once they're populated. Theme, dark. Now it's clearly a map. You're learning Android dev via Kotlin, so you're going to make an expense tracker. Fantastic. Easy to get your arms around. Very well defined base of topics and edge cases that folks are already talking about out there. Yeah. And best yet, typical hard worker, it's something that if you start using, you'll have a vested interest in improving and learning and doing more with. I like it. I like it. Okay. And then defining empty multi-dimensional arrays. Too bad. Too bad. Like, there's nothing there. Once you start assigning values, then you're right, typical hard worker. You're right. That type of project, building a little expense manager tracker, you can go lots of directions with it. Our friend David Fowler, he vibe coded a little app in Python because why not? He's trying to learn more about Python, to take the content from his bank statement, analyze it, and report back trends using a little bit of AI. Cool, right? Being able to do some AI trend analysis on things in an expense tracker, a fun way to learn more about language models. So, okay. Thinking more about this, comma, I think there's definitely a reason that we can be ambiguous when we're serializing an empty collection or an empty map. Period. The only concerns that we run into with an empty collection or an empty map are when we are deserializing and we don't have a structure that we're deserializing into. Period. Otherwise, we know exactly the type that we're destined to populate with no entries. Empty collection. Yeah. Hey, how's it going over there on YouTube? Hello. Is the content members of a map? Yes. Or is it a vector with one element that is a map? No. Which node? This one. No, it's a map. It's not a vector with one element that is a map. It's a map, because if it was a vector with one element, then it would have an indexer. Yeah. Yeah. So claims that an empty map vector can be interpreted as either one. Yeah, that's fine. The parser has to read ahead. Yes. What if you have a vector of strings and some of the element strings have tabs in them? Okay, so that part I think we have a solution for this in the feature discussion for, I think it's 5. Yeah. I think we're going to end up queuing up this feature discussion that we have for these few items as version 0.2 of the spec. Let's create a milestone. V 0.2 specification, and not a due date. Improvements in escaping characters, defining collections, and maps. And I'll create a branch. And then actually, not that one, not that one. This one should set up to merge into 0.2. Can I change that pull request? Can I change that? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So now I can put together another pull request with the definition of the multi-line escaping. Yes, we are naming our maps. Yep. So let me go back over here. So let's take this one that Aaron suggested. And I pitched out this idea of using triple dots to indicate shut off the parser for the next lines. They're indented one level more, and then all tabs are respected. It's the same way that you do raw text. Hey, Jean Valjean, Happy New Year to you. Hello. So let's take this idea and add that into... So I think we're done with that for right now. Get rid of you. Rid of you. No. We're going to be working over here. Give me a new branch. Where'd it go? This. Origin V02. What other changes do I have in here? Oh, it was that little bit that I was tinkering with. Yeah, no, that's fine. Yes. All right, back over to this. You close. Try that again. Okay. So now I have the 02. I should have just done change the base of it, whatever. And let's call this feature raw lines. I don't know. You go away. And over here. Oh. What? Oh, cool. Just had a bunch of things delivered. I want to document for the specification the escaping of text and the raw line presence inside of a TAML document that's defined in the responses to issue 5. You're back on the tilde for null. Maybe make it necessary only when there are no other siblings. Hold that thought. Let's see what it writes here for updating the specification. And then I need to wrap it up. I've got a bunch of packages that arrived that I got to take care of. Maybe a trailing tab. See, I don't want to do trailing tabs because then you've literally got white space and no indication that there was white space because there's nothing at the end of it. That's why putting a single character there like tilde kind of is like, oh, there was a thing here. Put 100 more lines into that, John. Yeah, we'll generate some examples to go with these. What do we got? Raw text syntax using triple dots as a value indicator to enable raw text mode where tabs and new lines are preserved as literal content. Triple dot indicates the start of a raw text mode. Content must be indented exactly one tab more than the parent key. All tabs and new lines within the raw text are preserved literally. Raw text mode ends when indentation returns to parent level or less. Shell scripts, SQL queries, HTML templates, simple text examples. Validation rules, proper indentation requirements, correct raw text indicator format, consistent indentation within raw text blocks. Added specific error types and messages for raw text validation failures. Enhance the main example to demonstrate raw text usage. Still need a way to allow a leading literal tab. You've already got one. It's here. Let's look at the doc. Keys and values cannot contain tab characters. Only the separator between key and value may contain the tab. Exception, raw text blocks using triple period preserve tabs as literal content. So rule number 10, use triple period as a value to indicate that the following indented lines contain raw text with preserved tabs and new lines. For values that need to contain tabs, new lines, and other special characters, TAML provides raw text mode using the triple dot value indicator. The following lines that are indented exactly one level more than the key become raw text content. All tabs and new lines within the raw text block are preserved as literal content. So multiple lines, all preserved. Rules for raw text. I'm going to come back to your question in a second. Because I think we can update that to make it clear that a leading tab counts. So multi-line raw text, script. Yeah, so that all is legit. And that's after the raw block for the script. SQL queries, select star from users. Right, so to Locarno's question, what happens with that? And I think we just need to clarify, to exactly your point, we need to add that after that first indent, including the initial tabs, are further included. So validation rules, raw text lines must be indented exactly one tab more than the key. So additional tabs more than the key are preserved to go there. I look like Dr. Disrespect without the beard. I'm not the 6'8" freak that he is with the how many inch vertical leap, and I've got better hair. So that's okay. So let's tweak this a little bit. We need to tweak this a little bit so that lines 172 through 174 are supported, and the leading tab on line 173 is recognized as a tab in the raw text. Suggest some updates to the rules that you just added to make this additional discrete tab clearer. So, a poker star ONG, Gosh, I used to watch Doc all the time when he was on Twitch, and even a little bit when he was on YouTube. Now, like, it's much harder to find him. I'll catch his videos on replay just for fun, but I've got a hard time with Doc in several different ways. I ran into him at TwitchCon in 2019, and just said, "Hey, how's it going, Doc?" And that was about it. Like, he wouldn't recognize me from anyone, but like, I have a better relationship with Dr. Lupo, in part from some of the things we've done with St. Jude. Like, Dr. Lupo knows who I am, at least. Like, that's a thing. Much respect to Ben. He's done so much charity work. And to be able to collaborate and work with him work with the group on St. Jude fundraising. Totally cool. But that's banana. That's banana. So here we go. What did updated rules? Minimum versus exact. Raw text lines now need at least one tab more than the parent key. The first tab beyond the parent level is structural indentation. Indicates it's a raw text line. Any additional tabs become literal tab characters in the content. Is now explicitly shown as valid. Tab character in content, correct tabs. If key is at indentation level 0, has 2 tabs, 1 structural, 1 content. 1 structural, 0 content. That are indented exactly 1 level more than the key become raw text content. All tabs and new lines within the raw text block are preserved as literal content. So, yes. Raw text lines must be indented at least 1 tab more than the parent key. First tab beyond the parent key level is structural indentation. Any additional tabs beyond are preserved as literal tab characters. There you go, Locarno. Just got a Lego flower sets. Chris Funk are so much fun to put together with your partner. Mrs. C Sharp Fritz and I have put together a number of Lego flower sets, and she actually has one set on her desk at work. So much fun to do with your partner or with your kids. So yeah. Continuing here, raw text value is the concatenation of all raw text lines with their preserved tabs and new lines. So hello world with, and there's a tab in there. Yeah, hello tab world with tabs. Raw text with leading tabs. This line contains a tab character. Second line contains this line has no leading tabs. There you go. Yeah. Oh, it's fun. Right? Hey, McNets. Hello. So complex example. There's the SQL query. That looks good. HTML content. There we go. Validation rules. Triple dot must be the exact value. 3 periods, no spaces. Raw text lines must be indented with at least 1 tab more. Ooh. It's not going to know what this is. We've tried this a couple times. The first tab beyond the parent level is structural. Additional tabs become content. Yeah. Raw text ends at the first line with indentation less than or equal to the parent key. If no indented lines follow, the value is an empty string. So I think this meets our needs also. Reverse the polarity? It does. And I don't get why it doesn't read it right away. There's got to be something with the queuing. Insufficient indentation. Yeah, that doesn't work. Like, that would actually be picked up as a key value pair underneath of it. Or actually as a key with no value. Mixed indentation. Yeah, mixed indentation. And then data types will eventually do more with that. I like this. So let's add you. Change that. Raw text mode, yes. And push that one up. And set that up as a pull request. And then I'm going to wrap it up here. This is 5. Nice. Static C++ lib. Fantastic. And then conversion from TAML to YAML. We'll dig more into that. Next time. Awesome stuff. 6 pull requests out here. Rust library, C library, C++ library, and then conversion app that will go from TAML to YAML. And I think there's an issue for finishing this. Should this go to 0.2? This is implemented on 0.1, so I'm okay with this going through, and then it actually should get the update directly, because in the 0.2 branch, we'll update the parser so it handles 0.2. This references and uses it uses the core serializer. The one I just created, it should have. Didn't I put it on? Oh, you're right.
Developers.
There we go. Thank you so much for the follow. There we go. Yeah. You're getting a message saying that you need to confirm something. You added a workflow. Yeah. So I need to approve that this can run. Is that publishing, or is it just building? Upload artifacts on the test, upload build folder. Yeah, I'll let it go. So now it's actually going to do the build that you submitted. See that? So, fantastic. We got through a lot here today, and there were a lot of really good discussions around how we're evolving TAML, how we're enhancing things, what the features mean, how they can grow. So good. I really appreciate the discussion, because it's going in the right direction to make this more of a thing. And I really appreciate that we are all kind of seeing this could be a thing, right? So let me wrap it up for now and get you set up with a raid here on Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube, lots of other great videos, either over here, down here, depending on how you're watching. Ever invite co-voice with me? Oh, guests. Yeah, I've done that before. And could totally do that. We'll see. I have a number of special streams coming up after next week. Next week I'm out of town. Yeah. Yes. We're going to be doing a Lego building stream with Mrs. C# Fritz. We're going to be doing a 1-hour coding challenge stream. That's going to be a little bit later in the month because I need to get that set up and I need to get a judge recruited to help us, because we're going to do a little 1-hour hackathon here live that you can participate in. I'm going to be doing a sci-fi book reading stream. That's coming up. And we're going to be raffling off a bunch of pairs of Gunner Legendary glasses. The legendary models, the ones you see at the top, the really, really cool ones. We're going to be raffling 3 of those off in January, thanks to our St. Jude milestones that we met. I've got some hats that I still need to put together and send out. They're coming. I'm actually going to be going over to the shopping mall tonight, so I'll be putting in the orders tonight. There's so much going on. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great January. I need to take off for next week, but I'll come back. We're going to have so much fun with the stuff that's going to happen. We're going to get Mrs. C Sharp Fritz on with us. We're going to build a Lego Game Boy together. It's going to be a blast. I hope you tune in. I hope you follow along if you're on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, click the subscribe button, click the bell so you're notified when I go live. I'm going to do another recording talking about what we've decided and what we're building here in TAML and discuss some of those next forward steps and add them in to the YouTube channel. All right, let me see who else is streaming on the big Twitch TV network that I can get you connected to, that might be doing something cool, something fun that we can raid into. Yeah, that's me. Let's see here. Let's go raid into Irish John Games, who's working on building a game. Spell games right. Fantastic. Have a fantastic rest of your day, wherever you might be. I wish you good health and good coding. Take care.